As the saying goes, people invest in you, in your story, and property is just, or whatever asset it is just icing on the cake.
Welcome, everyone, to our Hero Capital Raising Show. I'm your host, Tim Mai. Today, we have not just one, but two special guests on the line. It's one of those rare times. I think this is only the very second time that we have multiple guests on the line with us here for our interview. First, I'd like to introduce you to Mr. Jon Lopez. Jon started out his real estate investing career in the single family home rental since 2009. Him, and along with his wife, started the business together. And with Jon's 15 plus years in the public relations and sales, he co-founded Nine Doors Down with Anthony, Mr. Anthony Pimentel. Anthony has been investing in real estate in both the single family and multifamily since 2006. And his area of expertise includes underwriting, due diligence, acquisitions, asset management. And Anthony has 18 plus years background in technology as a technology professional, working with large companies doing high nine figures. And yeah, and with that, let's give them a big welcome, y'all. Woohoo!
Thank
Okay.
you for the intro,
Okay.
Tim.
Thanks,
Yes,
Tim, for the
yes,
intro.
yes, definitely. One of the reasons why I am super excited to have both of you on here is because you guys like at the forefront, leading the charge with the fund of funds, right? It used to be that the Coach GP model was the popular model. And a couple years ago, the fund of funds start to get more popularized in our multifamily syndication space. And yeah, you guys were the two that's leading the charge. You've done you how many of the fund of funds deals have you done now?
Was it close to 10 now, Anthony?
Yeah, possibly, yeah.
And not
Yeah.
including the other fund managers we've helped see the light.
Yeah, I helped launch the transition as well. So let's start with this. We'll have each of you share a little bit about your background and what attracted you to real estate, and then particularly how you guys got together and founded Nine Doors Down.
Want to go ahead, Ant?
Sure. Yeah, so basically, I'm based in Los Angeles. So my background is in technology, but I've never really been into like school and like working a 8 to 5. So the technology field allowed me to have a more flexible schedule. But I've always been an entrepreneur. I didn't know how I was going to be an entrepreneur. I just knew I had to, if I wanted to do something, I go get it done. So basically, I actually did not start in real estate. I actually ended up opening, it was actually by accident getting my rental. I just happened to get another house. My wife got, I guess, had intrigued with this new build. And then we were like, oh, let's get it. Then I just happened to put my first house for rent. And
Mm.
as far as that, I was like getting bored of my W-2. And I was like, you know what? I wanted to open a restaurant. So my first real business was actually opening a franchise restaurant, which has been open for the last 10 years. And from there, I was like, you know what? If I can open a restaurant, I can do real estate. So I started flipping real estate in Indianapolis. I was buying houses for 10,000. I was wholesaling. This was, I think, back in early 2015. And I just got to a point, I just got stuck. I was doing the burst strategy, got to, I think, about 20 something units or 30 units. And then I just got stuck. And from there, I was like, how do I scale? And then multifamily came about. And from there, we haven't really looked back. So multifamily and now self-storage is actually our criteria and what we look forward to.
Very cool.
And I guess for me, so as Tim stated, so my journey in real estate started along with my wife, Tony, and it was a property out in Los Angeles. And we had the property, and then 2 years into owning the property, my father had his first round of cancer. And so I'm originally from the Bay Area. Me, my wife, and my daughter, my oldest daughter at the time, we moved up to Northern California. And during that time, I didn't realize it, but I was learning how to work with property managers and how to keep a pulse on the single family rentals of what the monthly rent should be. And aside from that was my first taste in the real estate, but my background is actually sales and public relations. And so my major was public relations in college, but the biggest thing that I took away was through my actions as through a small time entrepreneur as a DJ slash turntablist. And I learned marketing and I learned the power of sales, getting referrals to get the next wedding gig, get the next birthday party or a club gig. That for me, that transition into a management position with AT&T. And from there, that's where I learned a lot of leadership, a lot of how to handle employees that reports to you while I report to my direct reports. And then, but that was also my curse. I became very comfortable in my W-2. And I had my last position in the telecom industry was a sales director for this accessory distributor in Southern California. And thankfully, Anthony and my wife Tony was urging me for years, guys, to to become an entrepreneur. And so, a little background: my wife has known Anthony and his wife since middle school. I'm grateful that Anthony came into my life, but it wasn't until we moved out to Las Vegas. This was a September of 2021. Luckily, we already invested in our first 9-unit property out in Tucson, hence the name Nine Doors Down. We've already sold the property, but luckily we started getting into commercial real estate because in New Year's Eve going into 2022, I'm in a new city, Las Vegas, new state. I have 3 kids, got my wife. I hopped on a Zoom call at 9:30 in the morning thinking that, hey, great year, guys. We look forward to Q1 and of this year. Instead, 15 of us got laid off. So
Wow.
looking back, I know the story is still being written, but that could potentially have been the biggest blessing that has happened in my life was getting laid off because it forced me to get out of my warm and fuzzy W-2 box that I was in and had forced me to get creative. And since then, we just really haven't looked back.
That's yeah, definitely huge blessings. Very similar situation with how I got laid off back in 2002 after the dot-com busted. And so that's cool. So yeah, so share with us a little bit about what has been the type of deals that you guys have participated in, raised for, yeah, and then what type of deals that you're focusing in on now.
Yeah.
Oh,
Go
go ahead,
ahead,
John. Initially, we started off with the smaller 50 units and less. Basically, with that, then we come to realize how difficult it was to get a deal under contract. A lot of guys are new. It's not as easy. I know these guys come out of these programs, getting something from underwriting, talking to brokers, getting an LOI in, and actually getting the deal, a purchase agreement done, and you guys start due diligence. It can take a lot of work and a lot of time. But basically, what we realized is we were also on the active side. We were doing that while we were waiting for deals. We noticed a specific operator that we've invested in personally. He had a really good business model. We figured out like his communication was really good. Just the process and working with them was great. So that's where we started looking to, hey, why don't we do? We didn't even know it was called fund of fund before, but we just started investing with him. We literally recommended or referred investors, passive investors, and also fund managers to this operator. And from there, then we started looking more of the 100+ units, and we just like that model. And looking forward, we want to work with other trusted operators in the future.
And Tim, you probably don't even remember, but you were there in our early days of our fund. So we met you at Fun Lunch Live here in Las Vegas with Bridget.
Yes.
And I remember going to the Mexican restaurant, and ever since then, and a couple months after, that's when we finally deployed our capital, which was close to $1 million into that first fund of fund deal. But shout out to you, Tim, because ever since then, your hero program and coaching has just exploded ever since, man. And it's just I think it's just an attribute for how actions can lead to other actions and opportunities.
Right. Yeah, that's really awesome that you brought that up because that was the event that I decided to go all in. That's okay. I'm gonna start shutting down other stuff I have going on and just focusing on this. And so it was awesome meeting you there for sure. It's been an amazing journey you guys have gone in the last two ish years, right? Not even 2.5 years yet. And so that growth has been really phenomenal. So share with us what's the type of, because Anthony mentioned earlier you guys are now doing self-storage, and then you're an operator yourself now, and you're even working on being fully integrated as well, right? Or so share with us a bit about your, what you have going on now.
Yeah, absolutely. We are merging. It's really a soft merger with existing partners. And again, I'm going to say it, actions will lead to other actions and opportunities. But we've soft merged with a company. We're calling ourselves Bloom Capital, and we're more than just a multifamily enterprise. We specialize in acquiring large portfolios, and strategically, we position ourselves and our investors to double our capital within 5 to 7 years. But the sweet spot is it's a company built by fund managers for fund managers. So we're able to give the economics that we've looked for ourselves as fund managers, and we're offering that to those that want to start off their PPM with us, or maybe they're active co-GPs, but they no longer want to have the operators have visibility with their investors. We help them up to go that route. But in a nutshell, with key partnerships within the company, we have identified opportunities where we're going to be acquiring properties at 50 to 65% discount. And we own the construction, we own the property management, we own the credit card processing, and we're working on something else that incentivizes fund managers. We can't announce it just yet, but it's an internal program that we've created from our experience.
Very cool. And then, so with this new partnership, are you guys gonna target focusing on self-storage predominantly, or
It's
or
it's a multifamily. So we've done 2 self-storage deals, but with Bloom Capital, it's strictly multifamily.
I
And
see.
I'll tell you a little backstory. Last year, the rumor is everybody knew that 2024 there's gonna be blood on the streets. Operators are gonna be very distressed, and we're looking for properties that was like 50 units and down, but we started noticing that properties that were like 150 and up, we weren't getting any visibility whatsoever. And we soon realized that it's because the banks and the lenders, they didn't want to take on these properties, because if they did and things were to foreclose, property values would start to dip even further. So as soon as that property now hits Crexy or LoopNet, things will start to decrease. And we soon realized that it's these institutional buyers that are getting visibility on these properties. And the deals that we've done in the past, we're getting a 25% discount, but this time around, we're now looking at 50 to 65% discount. But now, because we're vertically integrated, we're going to give a lot of equity to our fund managers let them cascade it down to investors as they wish. But we're just going to be a lot of meat on the bone, because we're making a lot of revenue from the gross EBITDA, from the top line of the income not associated with equity. So we're really excited about that.
That's super, super cool. Okay. Anthony,
And
did you want to
yeah,
add to that?
just to add to that, like with all our experience as a fund manager, as an operator, we really honed in and really, like John mentioned, it just became an accident. I was more focused on the underwriting, and I was focused on operations and property management. Then I come to realize right away, not really right away, because I took a few hits, but I didn't want to do that anymore. It was just a lot of work managing the property, dealing with construction, dealing with property management, all that stuff. And we really focused on the fund. In addition to that, is going vertically integrated, we realized right away is like all those expenses that you see on a traditional property, we can now, being vertically integrated, now we can see those as actual revenue streams. So we took all the little things we didn't like about what we've experienced as an operator, as an active operator, active fund manager, and also as a limited partner, fund of funds. We took that and created Bloom. So we merged all those into one, and really excited about the new company and looking forward to taking down more deals this year.
Let's do this. Let's talk a little bit about what a fund of fund is for those that are new and don't really understand it. Yeah, John, if you can give us like a quick, what is a fund of funds? And then we're gonna go into what are some of the challenges, some of the pros and cons as a fund of funds versus a co-GP. Yeah, let's do
Yeah.
that.
I think I'll talk about the advantages first with fund of funds.
We'll start with what a fund of fund is, and for
Yeah,
those
fund
that
of
might
fund,
not know.
I like to call it a glorified limited partner. because you can negotiate higher returns for yourselves and your investor. And you're taking a pool of capital and you're deploying it with an operator. And those investors that come into your fund, potentially they could actually receive greater returns going into your fund versus going directly into the operator. But in a nutshell, yeah, a glorified limited partner where instead of coming in at 50,000, 100,000, now you're talking about 500,000, 1 million, maybe even more. And the good thing about it is, as long as you do your due diligence on the operator, their track record, you want to hear stories how they got their teeth kicked in and how they bounce back. Maybe they've experienced several up and down cycles with the economy. So that way you could have a good understanding to vouch for them to your investors. And eventually you start to underwrite the operators and the property. And then eventually, at least in our case, the real estate hat comes off at a certain point and it becomes sales and marketing. And that now you're just focused on building relationships, marketing, building out your brand. You want to shake as many hands as possible, meet people, attend meetups, host your own meetups, leverage social media. Pretty much everything that Tim Mai has done, mimic what Tim Mai has done.
Yeah. So share with us, what are some of the differences, some of the pros and cons between fund of funds versus co-GP?
Go ahead, Anthony.
So co-GP, it really depends on your role, right? Since we're speaking about fund of fund, I'm assuming a lot of the guys here, when you become a co-GP, you're part of the managing group but your role is really just to raise capital. But as far as for SEC attorneys, they're going to say you can't just be raising capital. You got to have an additional role, and it can't just be what's called investor relation. The SEC, if they come down on you, they're like, really, what is that? But what we've realized as a co-GP, what you make is not, you can actually make more as a fund of fund, because once you have your own fund, you can actually, like Jon mentioned, what's it called? Have better returns because you're bringing in a larger pool of capital. And the second part is you can now charge your own acquisition fee, due diligence fee within your fund. And then you can also have a management fee within your fund. Now, as a co-GP, you really let the operators, the main managing partners, handle all that. And in addition to that is you have your investors. Let's say you raise capital and you're a co-GP. Sometimes it could happen your investors are exposed to the main managing partner. As compared to a fund, your biggest asset is your investor. They don't see that. They only see Tim My fund in the deal. And I think those are the main advantages. But what we've come to see is like now fund to fund, actually it's better economics rather than a co-GP, assuming your role is not part of asset management or any other bigger role within the company. But I think that's pretty much it. I hope that answered it.
I'd like to add one more thing. As with being a fund manager, money's not your biggest asset. It's the people and the relationships. And I've seen this multiple times. Co-GPs hopping on, they get into a deal, and then their investors are exposed to the operator. 3 to 5 years later down the road, they sell the operator sells the property, right? Maybe that co-GP individual is probably busy in another raise, or maybe they don't want to roll their capital over into the next operator's deal. When that happens, the operator, and I'm not saying it's a good or bad thing, because when it comes down to it, you got to close the deal. But the operator, if you're going in a co-GP structure, they can bypass the co-GP and go directly into your limited partners and ask them if they want to invest into the next deal. If those investors are in your fund, they're completely sheltered from that. So that way you're the relationships that you have built throughout the years, heck, maybe even 12 months, those relationships are protected. And that's huge. So that way you can keep scaling and keep growing and keep marketing and building your brand.
Yep, for sure. Yeah, that's both of all of those points are big reasons why I'm a huge proponent of fund of funds model as well. And yeah, we do teach a lot about that. So I totally hear what you're saying. So share with us, let's talk about some of your capital raising strategies. In the last 2.5, 3 years that you guys been doing this, you raised around $10 million. Is that correct?
Correct.
So share with us, what have you found to some of the top strategies that you found to work really well for you?
Yeah, on the first go around, it's always going to be friends and family. Your circle of influence is always going to be much closer to you. As time has went on, then we start to meet other people at meetups that we're hosting or events that we're going to. And every now and then you'll have people approaching you on social media, but then you really got to vet them out because not every investor is the right one. But what really I think in the last year and a half, I think we've really caught our stride was helping others see the light of fund of funds. Because I could tell the operator, hey, you know what? I'm bringing in maybe two, three, four other fund groups into your deal. And even from that point, you can even negotiate higher economics for all parties that's involved with the fund managers that you bring on. But I think approaching and marketing to those individuals that are in charge of, we'll just say 500,000 or a million, it's much more
Mhm.
efficient versus what Anthony calls a rodeo show. Contact someone for 50,000 or 100,000. Maybe that call goes well. You know what? Now we have 50 other calls of the same thing, but out of the 50, maybe only five of them will invest. So that and also leveraging relationships with our company at Bloom Capital, we have a channel that's targeting the family offices, the wealth management side. So we're attacking at two different lanes. So Anthony and I work like we'll just call it the middle class fund manager, retail side of things, while we have our two other partners focus on the big capital.
Very cool. That's excellent. Let's start first with the basics of when you first reach out to friends and family. Give us some example of what that conversations look like. If you're brand new raising money for your first deal, because we have some of those people on the line here, how should they best go about approaching their friends and family? How should they start the conversation to even know that they're interested in investing in deals?
Go ahead, Ant.
To be honest, yeah, that conversation can be really awkward, especially if you're new. You really gotta take a step back and really understand what you're doing, like what you're investing in. Because I know a lot of newbies are gonna be like, oh, I got this property. Is it single family? Is it a multifamily? Is it a flip? Like really step back, figure out what you're investing in, get your investment criteria down, and then have even like a 3 or 4 page pitch deck about your company. What is even your company name called? They know you as Joe Schmo, but that's it. Look a little bit more professional. Have a little pitch deck that states your company name, your little bio, a little bit information about you, and just share with them. Hey, I'm now doing real estate. I invest in multifamily, for example, like what you guys work on, your elevator pitch, and then from there, just be like, I just wanted to share what I'm doing with you. From there, and then these are deals we're looking at. So I would like, for me, it's like really sharing your what we call your buy box, and in the future, would you be interested? So it's never a hard sale when it comes to this type of stuff. It's really just sharing what you do. And then once they start following you and they seeing your actions, trust me, that they'll be investing in you. That it's not rocket science. It's really make sure you know what you're buying, what your investment criteria is, and then just let them know that see, these are example returns, not specific to any deal, but this is what you could look at, and then just give them alternative investment ideas, not just stock market, crypto, or whatever. Just let them know what you're working on.
Very cool. Okay. John, anything you want to add to that?
Yeah, I think with regular syndications, there's a common misconception, in my opinion, that if you have a good deal, investors will come. And I disagree with that wholeheartedly. And with that model, sometimes they think that like, hey, here's my 50-page investment summary that someone is just gonna fall in love with the property and will say yes. But with our experience, it's the pitch deck is what really helps define you, and you want to narrow down the pitch deck and your buy box as narrow as possible. Tell your story, your vision, where you're going to go, because that's going to widen up your investor pool. And the pitch deck, the way I like to call it, is it's like for those that play baseball, you have your on deck circle, right? You're on deck, you're warming up, you're not in the game just yet, but people have an idea. Even your opponents have an idea of what your swing looks like, whether you're swinging down, swinging up. Maybe you're horrible up on the outside pitches or inside. But once you're in the batter's box, that's when the game comes into play. That's where the investment summary comes into play. So if you could educate your investors, hey, you know what? We like investing in Arizona, Texas. 100 plus units, class B, C. Here are the minimum returns that we look for our investors. If we have a deal like this, which you already know in the back of your mind, but you're going to have one probably in the next 30 to 90 days, would you be interested? And by the time you share that deal with them, they already understand your story. They already understand your vision, what's your buy box, and they're going to be more prone to invest with you. Because as the saying goes, people invest in you, in your story, and property is just, or whatever asset it is just icing on the cake.
Right. Yep. I think that whole sort of ideology of you have a good deal, money comes. I think it came from the single family home war, because in the single family home war, the value is pretty straightforward. It's everything is based on comps, right? Comparable sales. And so if you have a property that's worth 300,000, the reason why it's worth 300,000 is because other houses sold in the area for 300,000. In this multifamily commercial real estate space, the value is all based on the operations and what's the net income that property is producing. And so because of that, the definition of a good deal is very relative in the operator's ability to execute the business plan, how well they execute that business plan. And so, yeah, so that's why it doesn't apply here in this multifamily commercial real estate space in terms of in terms of the values in the property. Over here, the value is all in the operator, because a great operator can make a mediocre deal a great deal, right? And a
Yep.
bad operator can make a really great deal a bad deal. That's why the value is in the operators themselves, not in the assets.
That's a great
Right.
point.
So let's talk about how you guys expanded beyond friends and family. You started doing meetups. At what point in your business did you decide to do the meetups, and how frequently do you do them?
I think it was so 9 doors down. We took down our first property, and it was like summer of 2021. I didn't move to Las Vegas until September of 2021, and I want to say it was maybe 6 to 8 months later, because I had the intention. I was like, "Hey, I'm in a new market. I don't know anyone, but I know the direction I want to go. I want to attend other people's meetups." But coming from my DJ background, along with a huge help from my wife, we knew how to organize events and parties. And our earlier meetups, we had a DJ, and we called it Investors Lounge Network. And so we had a DJ. Sometimes it'd be me or my other friends playing soft music while others were talking. We were firm. I was like, hey, there's no sales pitches, no presentations. We want a comfortable atmosphere. And the Las Vegas market, in my opinion, is very unique versus throwing meetups in LA, the Bay Area, or even San Diego, for the simple fact of traffic. So California traffic, when we throw meetups in California, I'm thankful we get like 20 people. With our meetups out here, especially with Investors Club Network, we'll on a slow Tuesday, it's probably 50 people, and some nights we'll have 70 to 100. But you have to move with intention. You don't want to just throw a meetup or even attend a meetup and just be a wallflower. Like, everyone is there to speed date and just get to know as many people as a little amount of time. And then eventually you're going to start to resonate and attract those that you see that, hey, there's potential in this. Let me pour into this relationship a little more and see where it goes. But you have to move with intention.
Yeah, and just to add to that, if no one knows what you're doing, how do they know? It's like you got to get out there and share your business, share your brand, talk to as many people. Even if you're not going to do business with them, you can refer them to other partners that you've met. So really, just sharing your contacts is actually really good way to get connected with people. And as far as us getting started too, is I think providing education. We open up our Instagram and we just throw up quotes up there, anything real estate related. We just, especially multifamily related, we threw it on there. But a lot of I would say our contacts, our connections were really referral based. We've done some campaigns, some LinkedIn. But I feel 90% of our investors are really just knowing us and being referred to us by other investors and other active investors and fund managers. So just building good relationship. But yeah.
Yeah, let's talk about that. How do you have a process that you ask for referrals, that you encourage referrals, so that way you get more of them?
More and more
Actually,
as of late.
well,
So
yeah, but not really. I'll be honest. when people understand our buy box, usually like for let's quick examples, like if another investor knows that, let's say another fund manager, for example, has investors who are investing in Texas, but but the other fund manager only invests in, let's say, Atlanta or Georgia. So we get a lot of referrals like that, but we don't, there's no compensation at the moment. We really just share. If it's within our buy box, we'll take on the investor. If it's not, we'll refer him to a guy that we trust or operates in that state to as a referral, but nothing to compensate us or anything. It's really just sending the contacts.
Right. Yeah. I don't mean necessarily compensation, but an actual, let's say, monthly campaigns or quarterly campaigns where you're like, oh, you know what, we're going to target, we're going to follow up with all of our existing investors and asking them for referrals. That's where I was heading
Okay.
with that
You know
conversation.
what,
Yeah.
Tim? We're gonna implement that more and more,
Yeah,
and
we don't do
that's why
that.
I'm happy we're on this. We learned from Tim Mai, guys. 'Cause,
No,
in my world, and as far as like my corporate world and even my DJ services, the referral it's king, and
yeah.
you want to set yourself up with as much low-hanging fruit as possible.
Exactly. Yeah. And yeah, referrals, a lot of times it's there's a lot of relationship building needed for them to make invest. Yeah, it could be first time referral. You just met them and boom, they invest in your deal right away. That happens a lot with referrals, that's, versus like when it's a new investors who might not know you yet, it takes longer to nurture that relationship. So referrals come along with it a lot of credibility and trust. Yeah, that's good.
No, that's a good idea. We have not implemented that.
Yeah. Let's talk about social media marketing because, Jon, I see you everywhere, really active, really consistent. Share with us some of your strategies around that.
The early days, man, it was a shotgun approach. It was spray and pray. Sometimes you wake up in the morning, you're motivated to like. The early days, we were doing it ourselves, hopping on Canva and coming up with videos and content. But I soon realized, or Anthony actually, both of us realized, we're on these. There's days when we're on Zoom calls for 8 hours a day, and there's so many times. I would say 80% of the time, we always tell ourselves, why didn't we just click record and that was a podcast? And having the podcast for us, I think it made it so much easier because we're capturing the content automatically, and also we're showcasing others. And but with a podcast, you're able to cut out several clips and make it short form content even on just a 25-30 minute episode. But ultimately, people want to hear your story. You want to share your story, and also you don't want to hold back because you never know who you're going to inspire, and you may inspire someone that you've never met and they're like 2,000, 3,000 miles away. And if my story could help another person's journey into this space or whatever, then I think that's a good thing.
Very good.
Yeah, I think sharing your journey is great because it allows the new fund manager or syndicator trying to get into this business. It lets them see that you're just a regular person and going through this journey. So I think that's what we've done with our podcast. We share other people's stories because everyone comes from different industries, everyone has different backgrounds. So I thought, hey, why not, like Jon said, just hit record and let people share like their kind of like challenges in life, whether they're in the medical industry or whatever, and who wants to get into investing, but they couldn't because they're so busy with their day to day. So I think that was really key and really helped us just get our name out there. It's really, like I mentioned, not really sales. It's really just our brand, just sharing. So at least when someone walks around, they see the Nine Doors Down hats. Hey, I know those guys. They do multifamily. They do real estate. You know what I mean? So
Hmm.
yeah, that's where we
Very
got to
good.
pretty much.
Very cool. Well, all right, guys. Any other tips, tricks that you guys do in your business that we haven't talked about that you want to make sure the audience know?
Be authentic and be yourself, guys.
It's not really, I guess it's a tip, but it's nothing crazy. It's not rocket science, but I think our biggest thing is follow up. Every person
Mhm.
you meet at a meetup,
Yeah.
make sure you follow up within the 24, 48 hours. Literally just a quick, hey, I met you at this place. Would love to explore. Would like to be, I'm interested in what you're working on. That alone, you at least you get to know what they're working on because you never know. They can be potential partners in the future. And that also helps with you building a relationship with them in the future. whether they're your investor now, 6 months from now, or 2 years from now, it doesn't matter. You guys cross paths, and it's pretty amazing what you can do. You never know. If you move with intention, you never know who your next partner is going to be. Seriously, no.
Yeah, I love
Well,
that. Yeah.
I do have
Follow up
one
is my thing.
that doesn't cost anything. Yeah, there's a lot of like sales landing pages you could implement now in AI. But one other thing that was very successful for us when we first started is we created a Google form and we called it the Investors Club, and we included that link. So that was our action item on just about every social media post that we had. If you're interested in learning more about opportunities, fill out this form. And the first 50 people that we were able to solicit to came from that form. It's free.
I love that. That's a great idea. Yeah, both really great idea. I have an add to what Anthony was talking about with following up with people that you meet at events, because you in this industry and even people you meet on this call. One of the things that I highly recommend you guys to do, and this will be a win for both of you, is record that call so that way that can turn into content for you. Recently, I started doing these AMA call, Ask Me Anything, and it's just a quick 15-minute call, and I'm answering other people's questions, and all of that becomes content. And so it's number one, it's different because how many people do you follow up with that just do a casual call versus you letting them know, hey, let's do this follow-up call, and with your permission let's record it so that we both have it as content that we can use in our social media marketing. Just by you bringing that intentionality to that call, you become very memorable for people. And people love to share their story, regardless if they're an LP or GP or whoever, right? People always love to share their stories. And yeah, so if you're gonna get on calls with anybody, definitely make it as an intention to record that call and turn it into content. It'll be good for both of you. Yeah. And
I love that.
yeah,
AMA, ask me anything. That's brilliant, man.
Great idea, man. Awesome.
15
Love
minute
it.
call. That's brilliant.
and I love what John's talking about, the simplicity of a Google form for people to sign up to hear about your latest deals, right? To be like, to get notified of deals. That's a really great idea. Highly recommend that too. All right, guys, what about tools? Any cool tools that you use in your business that you like?
As of late, I would say because of the podcast, it's the caption generator, and those things like it makes the editing process so much easier. And I know it's not necessarily real estate or commercial real estate related, but it helps you get your story out. And I've learned that when you're highlighting certain things, even the sentence, it's also editing the video coming along with it. So if you guys don't have a virtual assistant, get one as soon as possible. Those are some of the tasks that you want to offload. But I can't really think anything off the top. Anthony, and I know with the new company with Bloom Capital, we have a bunch of tools coming in.
Yeah, just some of those AIs that are out there. Those are
Yeah.
great. There's so many out there now. It really depends on what you're looking for. There's whether you're really new and you just need like a logo, you want to get those kind of things. I remember Content Gorilla is actually pretty good that I used before, but there's a lot of AI out there. It's all free, so
Yeah.
just Google
For
it.
I know. If you at a minimum, if you haven't started using ChatGPT,
Yeah.
start there. Like I beg you guys to go and practice. The things that you're able to do now with AI is just incredible. I used to have a real fear around creating content because English is my secondary language, and it's very hard for me to create content. But with AI, like yesterday, I was just doing some training with some of our clients, and I was showing them how you can use chat tools like ChatGPT to map out your entire year's worth of content to attract passive investors. It's just the things that it's able to do now. It's just absolutely incredible. It can format not only can it create the content, it can also format it specifically for Facebook posts, for LinkedIn posts. It can create YouTube short scripts for you. It can create TikTok scripts, all kinds of things that it can do. If you haven't already started using it, using a ChatGPT, start there. From there, you get used to it. But yeah, at a minimum, just use it to create content. And you see the quality of the content these days is really good.
Really good, yeah. Most importantly, it buys you time. I know back in the day, for me to even come up with an email campaign, it's gonna take me hours. I gotta think about what to say and all that. And with now AI, you can come up with that in 5 seconds, depending on what you wanted to say or whatever. Tell it what to do. So really, it's time to allows you to focus on building other relationship and all that stuff.
Exactly.
Speaking of that, using ChatGPT and the AI tools to paraphrase very important articles, so that way you could brand it yourself and send it to your investors, because your investors may not be paying attention to the same content that you're paying attention to. So that's an opportunity to brand that content.
Yep, for sure. Yeah, and there's an AI tool for that.
Yeah.
That can actually get like most up-to-date news and rewrite those news for you as well. It's called Perplexity. You can Google it.
Okay.
Perplexity.ai. Yeah. It's like ChatGPT, but it has like it can search the internet. So it's able to take real-time data.
I like that. We used to use Quillbot, and we would have to copy paste each paragraph into paraphrase. So yeah, it was saving us hours, but man, we were still taking 3 minutes to compose it. Something that you're talking about.
So it was free, so we were limited to X amount of characters, so we would just take a piece of it. So those were the good old days.
Early days of AI.
Yeah, it's really good. All right, guys, we're gonna wrap up this portion of our interview, and then we're gonna open up for Q&A here in just a little bit. For those that wants to connect with you guys, learn from you, do deals with you, invest with you, where would you like to send them?
Yeah, you could, for one, emailing us at info@9doorsdown.com. Follow us on Instagram. We're very active on Instagram. It's at 9doorsdown, spelled just like my hat. And individually, you could contact me on my cell phone, area code 818-536-2121. If you're on the freeway stuck in traffic, or you're in the shower and you want to listen to a podcast, we have the 9 Doors Down Show podcast. You can find on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and many more.
And do you guys want to give them your OnlyFans page as well?
No, I quit that right before COVID.
Awesome, guys. Jon, Anthony, thank you so much for doing this interview with me. Really appreciate you guys. Yeah, you guys brought a ton of value on this call. I love it. Thank you so much.
I appreciate it. Thank you. Thanks for having us. Thanks everyone for listening.
Thanks, guys.